Welcome back to Behind the Box. Today we are bringing you a review of a game that I've been really excited about doing for a long time now. We promised this ages ago. It's Millennium Blades.
Millennium Blades is a collectible card game simulator for 2 to 5 players. You play as competitors in a world where Millennium Blades is the most popular collectible card game. You'll each begin with a deck and some cash to get you started, and then the game is played out over 3 rounds. Each round consists of a deck building phase and a tournament phase. In the deck building phase, you'll have limited time to buy, sell, trade, and collect. And then at the end of that phase, you can score your collection to earn points. Next is the tournament phase, where you can take turns competing with the deck that you've built and try and earn the most points. After the 3rd round, the player that has the most points from the tournament phase and their collections wins.
Now, it's probably not a surprise to people that have been watching our videos before that I love this game. It was number 2 for me in my top 10 games of all time. And I should just sort of, backstory-wise, growing up, I played a lot of collectible card games. I played Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering. I used to build decks and go to tournaments and win tournaments. Not going to brag, but this is immediately just amazing to me. Like, the idea of a game like this. And it brings back so much nostalgia of playing those games as a kid. Now, these days, I don't really have the time, the energy, the money to invest in a collectible card game like that. So this, for me, ticks those boxes. This feels like when I used to go to tournaments or go to my Friday Night Magic and play games and draft cards, and it really just dredges up all of those amazing feelings again. It feels like you're playing a tournament, you know? Like you said, you've got the deck building phase, so you're trading cards. It's all real time in this phase, and so it's hectic, it's crazy, which sort of adds to the chaotic nature of this game, because you can't have a perfect deck. You won't get a perfect deck unless you're really lucky. And so it is about trading, trying to do the best you can in a really short period of time and building somewhat of a passable deck. And your deck will only be like 8 cards, and you kind of the way that they structure it is that it's an abstract game when you do the tournament phase. So you'll only go with 8 cards. That's meant to represent your 60 card deck of like a Magic the Gathering tournament, but it's just the highlights, just the big plays you made through the tournament that earned you the big points and made you stand out and made you progress. And at the end, depending on how well you did earning points in that tournament, you'll get victory points based on if you came 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th. You'll get a different amount of points. And the collections as well, that's supposed to just be that little funny thing of, oh, there was always that one person that seemed to have 5 copies of every really rare card, and they just had all these collections, and people always were trying to trade with them. So everything's sort of represented in an abstract way, and it was really amazing to me playing this game. Not only that, there's a lot of variety. Again, if you know us, you know I love variety in games. I don't know the specifics, but there's at least 25 different like packs of cards that you can basically assemble at the start of the game to make a store that you can buy from. There's a ton of characters you can play as. There's a ton of locations that you can play as. These all change the rules and give you unique powers, and it just is different every single time you play. And it can get more and more different because they keep bringing out expansions that add new game modes. If you ever played Magic, there was 3-headed dragon. That was a whole different mode. And that sort of thing will be coming into this in the future. The expandability of this game is just insane. I love it.
I really like, as somebody who's not that great at deck builders, I like that they give you options. So, for instance, the collections, you know, it's something you can focus on when you're doing these trading and buying and selling. You know, you can focus on collecting cards, as well as the deck building, but it's just a way of getting points if you're not super confident with the deck building.
Yeah, and you can get really good points from the collections as well. Like, that can make or break somebody winning the game at the end of it all.
And it has, yeah. We've seen it happen. Also, there's a meta that is revealed during the phases as well. So you can concentrate on that as well. So you can look for cards that fit that meta so you can get those extra points too. Yeah. It's just something to help get you started if you're not quite sure where to start. Yeah. I found it really helpful since my strengths definitely don't lie in deck building.
You buckle a little bit under that pressure of the timer.
I think it's also fun too that they had a bit of fun with the themes of some of these decks. You know, you can see that they've made parodies of some familiar faces
and intellectual properties and things.
Yeah. So you do recognize some of that in the cards, and they give them goofy names and stuff, and it's just a little something fun, you know, in the game. It's
actually been a really good way for us to introduce the game to our friends, because we have a friend that loves Final Fantasy, and there's a Final Fantasy set in the game. We have another friend that loves James Bond, and there's a James Bond set, and so it's something that makes them go, okay, I want to play, but we're using that set, and I want to get all those cards, and they'll buy all of them and figure out their own little strategies. And it's cool for you then to sort of go, okay, well, I won't buy any, I'll be a nice friend, but at least I'll get to see what those cards do. Yeah. So it's a fun part of the game.
Yeah. It is still difficult for me playing this game, because, I mean, you talked about the expansions and all the different decks that there are, and because there's so many, it's difficult to become completely familiar. And so I often find that when we're in that deck building phase, I spend quite a bit of time, you know, asking for the clock to be paused, so I can ask just a question about something on the card. Because
keyword, or how does something work? How will it trigger with this other thing you've got?
Exactly, yeah, because you're not super familiar with it all, and a lot of new things come up, and so it gives you a lot of questions, a lot of things to think about on top of all the other stuff that you have to think about. And so it's a bit of a nightmare for me sometimes, because there are so many choices and you do have so limited time. It can be a little stressful if that's, again, something that you struggle with. Also, it is kind of a long game, so you need to be prepared for that. Just expect it in advance. It takes at least 2 hours, and that doesn't include the time it takes to set it all up. Now, you can do stuff beforehand. I know you always set things up before.
That was going to kind of be my only real complaint about the game. It's not a complaint, but there's a lot of setup to this game, because the store is made up of a bunch of different types of sets that you can put together in the game, and you need to shuffle them together, and it will be about this tall of cards. It's huge, and it takes a while to set it up. Now, if friends are coming here, then I can get it all set out on the table, put the place mats out where they'll be for people, the player mats, and it's not as bad then for the other players. They've just kind of got to choose. If we're playing with characters, they'll choose a character. If we're playing with starter decks, they'll choose a starter deck. But when you first get in set up, and if you just try to dive right into the game, you're going to find it's a pretty long 30 to 45 minute setup overall, which isn't insane, but it is quite a lot to just get going into something that's going to be quite snappy when you're actually playing it. And yeah, it's long. For me, I don't mind that. Like I said, I used to go to Friday Night Magic, and that would be 5 hours of playing Magic all night. So as a card gamer, or a previous one, that's okay. But yeah, for someone that is only really enjoying like a fraction of the game, not a fraction, but like, you know, only like 75% of the game, that can become a bit of a chore, I guess, for people like that.
It does help, though, that it is broken up into these rounds, and so it doesn't feel as exhaustive as if you were just doing the same thing for 2 hours, you know, because you know, you have this deck building, you know, you can do some deck building after that tournament. Oh, the tournament didn't go so well, or someone's got that card that just keeps ruining this. Well, you have another chance, and you've got this deck building phase where you can...
and because when you play it, unless you play with the variant where you do a new deck each tournament, you get to keep the cards that you played with. And so you can see, okay, that person won that last tournament because they had this really powerful strategy. You can try and find cards that can counter that, or at least stop that from affecting you as much as it did, which is really, really cool. The metagame transforms throughout the 3 tournaments. People will be changing their cards. They won't just stick with the same thing, because it is kind of a set thing. You just play 6 cards one after another. Once you're done, like, unless you get stuff that stops them, they're just going to earn that same amount of points. And so you can't just go in with the same deck, because you won't earn as many points again. It's really cool. I love that about the game. There was another thing that I thought of when you were mentioning the having to stop the timer to ask questions. As the person that owns the game and knows all the rules, and oftentimes is the one that settles whenever there's like somebody isn't sure, ambiguity, oftentimes you turn to the person that owns the game and say, you know, this is how I'm reading it, but I could see it being read this way, what would you say? So as the owner of the game, for me, I find myself constantly getting paused, which is fine. I'm happy to help out, but that is something that some people might not be happy with if they own the game.
Mm-hmm. And while you're explaining that, I could be over here like
Lindsay's still trading cards and buying things while I'm explaining something or coming to a decision. Even if I pause the timer, people that are like really invested in what they're doing in their own hand, they're not going to be paying attention to the fact that I paused the timer. And so when I do it, I just don't even pause the timer anymore. I just keep going, but I help that person, but then I lose out on time.
Yeah.
So, and then that's a small thing. And like I said, for me, that doesn't bother me, but I could see it bothering other people. Another thing is, in the rule book, there's a few rules where it is quite strict on people, where, you know, if somebody makes a mistake, they just have to live with that mistake. Mm-hmm. I think once people get used to the game, that's fine. But when you're still learning, maybe letting people undo their mistakes a little bit. And there's another one where if they go with more cards to the tournament than they are allowed to go with,
you gotta take a random card.
Take a random card. Yeah. Some people might be like, oh, I'm really sorry, I took one extra card. These are the 6 cards I need. I'll just get rid of the rest of them. That's fairer to me. I go, that's fine. Then just saying, no, shuffle something and we'll get rid of it. And that might be the card they needed for the whole strategy. For me, it's about everyone having fun and trying out the thing they wanted to try out. And if you sort of destroy that before they even get a chance to try it out, that's less fun. Mm-hmm. So I'd say if you're going to play it, keep that sort of stuff in mind. I think once you get more familiar with the game, yeah, start using those because people should know better at that point. But if it's something you don't play very often and people have to kind of relearn certain things, that would be what I would say to do.
Yeah, and for people who are like me and get really stressed out trying to get the best deck, just always keep in mind that first deck that you build, that first deck building phase, is going to be crap. It's not going to be good. It won't be the best that it can be. It will get better.
Yeah, and it will always be kind of crap anyway because you've got ultimately 20 minutes to make a deck out of just the craziest random cards that you could possibly imagine. Yeah. But to me, that's what I love about this game. This is a perfect game. This is less stress than having a deck that I bring every week to me, to like Friday Night Magic, to try and beat people, but then I just keep losing to the same stuff, and I can't really change it because the cards don't exist. In this, you will see different stuff every time you play. Mm-hmm. Different combos will come out, different crazy interactions that are amazing, and that to me is what makes this game really, really special. Is there's a lot of variety, there's a lot to learn. It's hard to get familiar with the types of cards that are going to be coming out, but that's part of the fun to me. That's part of the I don't know what's going to happen, and then trying to change stuff kind of on the fly each tournament. I just love this game so much, and yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say other than what we've discussed already. Yeah, that's it. That is our review of Millennium Blades. May have been a little bit jumbled, but overall, I love it. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you have a background in card games. And thank you very much for watching. We'll leave our links to social media down below, as well as links to the game itself, so you can have a look at it. Until the next one, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. I'm really happy with that.
Do you think you said enough how much you love the game?
I could have said it more, I think. Really, really could have driven that point home. I hope people understand how much I love this game.